God showed him a simple, easy, and free natural pathway to fully recover his inherent arousal performance and to go on to become a leading expert in natural healing pathways for all forms of arousal dysfunction, from neurological to energetic to organic. God showed him that if he permanently quit engaging in graphic arousal imagery, as well as refrained from all similar virtual imagery, and practiced essence retention, his arousal performance, potency, and power would not only return to its natural splendor, but even surpass his wildest dreams. With this critical foundation in place, he exploded onto the scene in every aspect of his life, reaching unimaginable heights in physical fitness, deep, meaningful, and connective relationships based on conscious communication and healthy bonding behaviors, a powerful neurology with healthy levels of dopamine, satisfying emotions and balanced moods, potent mental creativity, acuity, and ingenuity, and overall success in every aspect of his life. He was handed a sacred mission and entrusted with a dedicated mandate from God, for which he was called to harness all the powers invested within him, his powers of restraint, discipline, determination, will, passion, intensity, creativity, and all the ferocity and life force he harnessed within his sacred body, mind, and soul vessel, as well as all the power of the divine blue ocean, which he harbored within his eyes and carried within his heart. The sacred mission God was placing in his hands was to become one of the foremost faces and forces of the graphic arousal awareness movement and to rescue as many children as possible from the overwhelming flood of the graphic arousal tsunami. He was shown a clear pathway in which to guide the children of God back to the safe and abundant shores of true health, potent arousal, divine inspiration, and infinite empowerment. He would lead his brothers and sisters down this clear pathway to reclaim their full inherent power, realize their highest potential, and to finally become the ideal being God always intended for them to become in life. At the same time, he discovered he was a talented writer, something he was completely unaware of throughout all the previous decades of his life. God provided him with the immense power of the written word to move, evoke, inspire, and motivate the children to begin their own deeply personal and profound journey of massive positive transformation. These were the very same words which emanated from the primordial melodies and infinitely creative songs he grew up with on the ocean. These were the very same words emanating from the perfect mouth of God, which spoke to him in the divine silence of the night and in special inspired moments throughout the day. He would listen steadfastly with every fiber of his being and write it all down in order to lure the children back to true health, harmony, and empowerment, using the sweet honey, the nourishing morsels, and the precious gems sprinkled throughout his writing. God emboldened him with unbreakable courage and passion to speak to the children, lead them out of the flood, and hand them back their full inherent powers to reach their highest potential in life. This became a divine mission and an unbelievable honor for him, which he could not believe he, of all people, would be chosen for. A lifetime of physical and emotional abuse had left him voiceless, but God chose a man who had lost and lacked his voice as the perfect leader to become a powerful and deafening voice for millions of men who were seeking a way out of the very same suffering, confusion, depression, disempowerment, and dysfunction he had gone through. God chose a man who had rarely picked up a pen to become a bold and creative writer, to deliver a book of 12 chapters written in 12 days, to speak on 24 of the largest holistic health podcasts in the world, to write and produce hundreds of videos, and to awaken the youth, men and women, who were grappling and struggling with unhealthy negative habits, obsessions, and addictions. God chose a man who could recall the sacred words, intricately written and expertly engraved upon the endless crests, whitecaps, and emotions of the vast Pacific Ocean. God reared and raised him on the edge of where the vast Pacific Ocean meets the massive continental landmass of a dopamine nation, during a critical time when his people were under the overpowering grip and death throes of the gravest threat to ever reach its shores. God needed a modern shaman who could pierce through the illusion and delusion of the floodwaters, and who preferred to live on the periphery of society in order to provide the perspective needed for a culture at grave risk of disappearing forever beneath the waves. God needed a warrior spirit tempered by suffering and punished by decades of self-imposed imprisonment to provide the empowerment to free the people trapped in their own self-imposed dungeons. God needed a holy Heyoka and a great trickster who harbored the fearlessness needed to ride into the global village seated backwards on his horse, painted in broad and bold black and white stripes, and donning the ironic crown of a clown in order to rewrite and retell a great new story of the true pathway to health, freedom, and empowerment. God needed a clever coyote and a wily laughing hyena who would courageously face and swim against the pervasive and powerful currents of the time, and who could rattle, infuriate, and upset the diabolical beasts and dark powers taking advantage of the vulnerable, disempowered, and dysfunctional state of the people. God needed a highly sensitive and intuitive visionary who could look upon the open expanse of the true blue ocean, see a brilliant future lying beyond the horizon, reflect its moods, its psalms, and its melodies to his brothers and sisters, and hold a mirror up for them to peer into. God needed a compassionate, empathetic, and loving soul, someone to help rescue and relieve the immense suffering of all the children who were crying out in real anguish, terror, and pain, who were wildly grasping for the floating remnants of their past ancestral heritage to keep them afloat, who were desperately gasping for the purity and clarity of the air, and who were frantically searching for a lighthouse to show them the way back to shore. God led him to his good friend, an Emmy Award-winning videographer, where they would join their creative forces together on the mission they were vested in by God, to praise God, align with the natural creation, and to live long, healthy, abundant, and immensely satisfying lives in resonance and in harmony with God and the immovable laws of the universe. Together, they would give everything they have within their body, mind, and soul to awaken their brothers and sisters to the enormous power of a holistic, healthy lifestyle, which deeply honors, respects, and reveres the natural creation we have inherited, as well as the immense joy, meaning, and love which comes from a life dedicated to God and in harmony and resonance with the healing light and love of God. The gifted athlete who had been waterlogged and sunken beneath the torrents of the tsunami for decades was fully embodied and unleashed yet again through a renewed physical fitness protocol, only this time with greater depth, dedication, and power than at any other time in his life. His love for holistic health, the natural creation, motivational coaching, and the creative arts was resurrected once again, only this time reaching unimaginable heights and depths of discovery, enlightenment, expression, and empowerment. He carried his love, affinity, and reverence for the power of water to the rich soils of western Sonoma County, lured and coaxed by the promise of the vegetable and fruit seeds. When he obtained a plot of land he could call his own, he could not believe it. Never before had he felt such freedom. and a rich abundance of opportunities and possibilities in his life as the moment he passed through the welcoming gates of the laden branches and vines bowing down to anoint his head. His creativity saw an enormous empty canvas stretching out in front of him, upon which he could paint and write his wildest dreams. The moment he set foot upon the rich earth of his new home, teeming with potential, it felt like he was entering through the gates of heaven. Vignettes of lush leaves, fragrant flowers, and fresh fruits stood like the most exquisite masterpieces of statues and paintings, all of which were shaped, molded, and brushed by the hand of God. He fell to his knees, where his tears of renewal, joy, and gratitude rained down upon the rich soil, permeating through the open heart of the earth. The emotional waters, which flooded from his true blue eyes, were the last remaining key to unlock the gift of the earth and the eternal promise contained within her sacred vaults. The moment his tears reached the shiny coat of the seeds, tenderly nestled within the bosom of the soil, his sacred waters pierced the protective armor of the seeds, activated their encoded intelligence for unlimited growth and potential, and opened the nurturing gates of love. As he unleashed all his tears like a pool of water into the outstretched palms of the soil, he faithfully sang the song of his favorite musician who had so profoundly and positively influenced his faith in God and his connection with the natural creation, Bob Marley. Quote, "For just like a tree, planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth fruits in due season. Everything in life has its purpose and finds its reason in every season." End quote. It was his turn to give back to the ocean, which had nurtured and loved him so immensely by planting 88 acres of apples and olives with the sweat of his brow. He named his farm Gold Ridge Organic Farms in honor of the coastal breezes, which created a rich abundance of fruits from the hills of Sebastopol. Here, he would carry on a local apple growing tradition spanning back 150 years, with heirloom and novel varieties alike, and a creative and innovative entrepreneurial business model. He had firmly planted his roots deep in the sandy loam soils, so his branches could spread in profound reverence towards his Creator. After a lifetime of feeling excluded, different, teased, and abused, he learned to love, honor, respect, and revere himself, finally realizing that all the traits that other kids had prodded, poked, and teased him about, and which had ostracized and exiled him in a state of loneliness from the others, were actually rare and precious gifts from God, intended all along to grant him wings to fly to new heights unimaginable. His life became a sacred act of radical acceptance, appreciation, and gratitude, where he cried tears of disbelief and thanks for every single event of his life, which led him to such an unimaginable state of bliss, joy, satisfaction, alignment, and empowerment. Never again would he fall prey to the merciless tug and ceaseless pull of the devastating, destructive, and disempowering currents of graphic arousal imagery. Every day, he prayed deeply and profoundly to God, even after he was fully healed and well along his journey, for an unbreakable and ceaseless connection with God, the grace of humility, and the beautiful guidance and protection of God's loving hands. Every day, he expressed deep, heartfelt gratitude for the trial by water he was destined to endure, knowing full well that if he had to go through it all again in order to receive the unimaginable blessings he had received, without a moment of hesitation, he would do it all over again with a smile on his face worth a million smiles. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching the entire story. In case you did not figure out the symbology and meaning of the story yet, here it is. 25 BP is the story of my life, before graphic arousal imagery and before the internet. It is a glimpse into life from the perspectives both before and after the arrival of the internet, the fundamental impacts it has made in our world, and the pervasive dysfunction it has wrought on every level in millions of people's lives. It is a story of extreme adversity and a beautiful overcoming of seemingly impossible obstacles and suffering. It is a story of eternal hope, health, joy, and empowerment. For the youth, it is a story of their rich ancestry, the endless possibilities, the unlimited potential, and the absolute freedom they have always harbored deep within their divine body, mind, heart, and soul. It is a story of how we can always harness the power to protect and elevate ourselves above the limited and false constructs of a synthetic, virtual, and replicated world, which is currently being mercilessly imposed upon us. For the youth, who cannot even imagine a world worth living without virtual internet, instantaneous communication, and endless novel graphic arousal imagery, this story provides irrefutable proof that not only can we exist and persist in a world with limited to no internet, but we can actually thrive and flourish with true satisfaction, joy, health, and empowerment when we align and connect with the unlimited power of the natural creation as we are truly meant to do. While this is a biography of my story and how I have recognized and realized my own sacred gifts and divine worth, endowed and invested within myself by the graceful, loving, and perfect hand of God, this is also your story. Every single one of us is an insanely rare, unique, precious, priceless, and divine child of God. Every single one of us has been endowed with unlimited potential and an inherent blueprint to become our truest and highest expression of our ideal self. It is we, not God, who consciously and subconsciously creates barriers and erects prison walls around the innate power of our sacred body, mind, and soul through the self-sabotaging, undermining, and unhealthy behaviors we choose to engage in every single day, day after day, year after year, and decade after decade, as long as we remain blind to our actions and ignorant of our unrealized sacred gifts, divine worthiness, and the golden pathways which will lead us back to true freedom. The greatest challenge we face in this modern era is how to live, relate, and interact with our internet devices. What restrictions and limitations do we place on our devices and ourselves? Because if we fail to harness any restraint, discipline, and determination with our devices, we will experience massive dysfunction in our lives and fail to become the ideal beings we are destined to become. In this era of unfettered and unrestrained internet access, rather than gaining and maintaining control over our devices and the endless virtual universe they transport us into, it is our devices which has gained a stranglehold over each one of us and maintains massive and pervasive control over our lives in this modern era. Arousal dysfunction, which was predominantly limited to the elderly age demographic, is now predominant in young men, who make up the fastest growing form of arousal dysfunction we see today. This form of arousal dysfunction is called PIED and arises entirely from a neurologically based dopamine addiction to graphic arousal imagery. Today, living amidst the crashing waves and surging tempests of a massive tsunami, we all need to call upon our own inner warrior for courage, our own inner Heyoka to sift through the heaps of carnage wrought by the great tsunami, and our own inner shaman for wisdom, guidance, and healing in a backwards world. We all need to call upon God for our drive, determination, inspiration, and willpower to find our true selves amidst the torrential flood ceaselessly trying to pull us under its suffocating waters to an unrealized life and an early death. We must never stop questioning what we perceive as a fixed reality. We must ceaselessly expand and push new boundaries of what we thought was possible. Are we sacrificing the ideal being we're truly meant to be in life simply to contort and mold ourselves into what a massive consumer society wants us to believe, and in order to consume their products? Have you asked yourself and checked yourself on the most fundamental questions in life? Are you underselling and shortchanging yourself in order to fulfill the bottom lines of corporate greed and power? Do you have unbreakable faith in your own inner power and worthiness? Are you in control of your life? Or are you merely a puppet, precariously dangled and violently pulled by the strings of a puppet master seated outside of yourself? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to catch the next video.